Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love to the author and me. On to the show.
The next day, what the F*** CK, Lux muttered as he looked at the base of the mountain that was now littered with trash. After confirming with the Dragon King that only the mountain range belonged to the half-elf, not the entire floating island, the residents of the city of Pygmalion started dumping their trash at the base of the mountain, as if to mock Lux for trying to fool them. Not only did he have to deal with the mountains of garbage inside the crater, now, he also had to deal with the waste that encircled his entire territory. "You had this coming," Sethis commented from the side. "Now, you have made the entire city of Pygmalion your enemy." The black-scaled dragonborn witnessed how the mayor of Pygmalion came to look for Lux and handed him a scroll, informing him that he was now banned from entering the city of Pygmalion. If the half-elf were to even step foot anywhere inside the city, he would be captured by the guards and locked up in jail for capital offense. The half-elf looked at the dragons, who were happily throwing garbage at the base of the mountain while sneering at him. Clearly, they were mocking him for his futile attempt to make them stop their dumping activities on the floating island they had treated as the pit. "I wanted to resolve this peacefully, but since you guys want to play dirty, there's no need for me to hold back," Lux thought as he discussed with his guildmates the problem they were facing. Heaven's Gate Guild chat. Are you sure that the land given to us by the Dragon King is a garbage dump?" Sai asked. "Yes," Lux replied. "It's so smelly that it is enough to wake up the dead." "Do you guys have any solution to this problem?" Seedwin, who was the village head of Leaf Village, voiced his opinion. "It seems that we are facing a big problem right from the beginning of being able to found our guild," Seedwin commented. "However, I believe that there is a way to resolve this." "Are you sure that there is no room for negotiation?" "I don't think this is negotiable," Lux replied. "They have long regarded this island as their garbage dump. Also, the mayor banned me from stepping foot on the city of Pygmalion. Even if I asked to talk with him, I believe that they will just ignore me." "Why should we negotiate?" Sai interjected. "Since they want to throw filth at us, we should throw filth at them as well." "That's right." Thoram, who was the dwarf commander of Noria, agreed with Kay's bold words. "How about you burn it? Trash and manure burn easily. It will be even better if the wind takes the smoke to that damnable city, so that they will breathe in sh*t. Yes, burn them. Make them breathe sh*t. Show them who's boss." For the Horde. After getting a unanimous decision from his guild members to counterattack, Lux decided to proceed with the operation they had named Operation Deep sh*t. Lux hovered above the massive crater with his arms crossed over his chest. He had been waiting for hours for the wind to blow in his favor. Finally, just before sunset, the wind picked up and blew towards the direction of the city of Pygmalion. Sethis, who was wondering what Lux was up to, simply watched from a safe distance, far away from the stench that filled the mountainside. Suddenly, the half-elf as well as the baby slime on his forehead opened their mouths and fired 2 dragon breaths at the center of the crater, igniting a blaze that caused an eruption similar to a volcano. The floating island shook as the waste materials inside the crater combusted, raising flames and black smoke that extended for hundreds of meters upwards. Those who were in the city also heard the loud explosion and felt curious about what was happening to the pit, which was now emitting a dense black smoke that was now headed in their direction. Due to the strong winds, the black smoke traveled quickly, allowing the smoke to travel faster than usual. Ray at updated street rise at N. Vel, Ben, calm. Several minutes later, the smell of something foul and rancid washed over the city, making everyone's eyes water and their throats burn. The mayor immediately ordered those who specialized in wind magic to deflect the smoke that was being blown in the direction of their city before summoning the city guards to follow him to the floating island, where the dense smoke was coming from. "What in the blazes is happening?" the mayor shouted as he looked at the burning crater, which was spreading the filthy smoke in their direction. "Those who know water spells, extinguish those flames right now," the mayor ordered. However, before his orders were carried out, Lux appeared in front of them and blocked their path. "This mountain range belongs to me," Lux said with his arms crossed over his chest. "All of you are trespassing my private property. You bastard. It was you who caused this, right?" the mayor shouted as he pointed his clawed fingers at the half-elf who was covered in green armor. "'Cause of what?" Lux replied. "Are you talking about this sweet fragrance that I am sharing with you guys? Don't worry, I'm not going to charge you anything. You can all smell it for free." The mayor wanted to slap the half-elf silly for even saying something so ridiculous. Who in their right mind would want to smell burning trash and manure, even if it was for free? "Look, you are causing problems to other people," the mayor said icily. "If you don't get out of the way, I will order my guards to capture you and lock you in prison for life." "Well, you can do that, but I will send a petition to the Dragon King, saying that you trespassed on my territory Lux replied with a sneer as he showed the deed with the insignia of the Dragon King. Are you going to violate the Dragon King's orders? If you want me to step aside, then I will. However, I will immediately report this to the Dragon King, and tell him that you infringed upon my rights. I will also ask for compensation because you are interfering with the renovation that I am working on right now. Lux even stepped aside and made a gesture for the mayor and his guards to extinguish the flames he started. In his previous life, he watched a documentary about a mountain of Manhwa that had once caught fire, and how it burned for weeks. Even the firefighters hadn't able to fully extinguish the flames due to how powerful the blaze was. Of course, the people of this world were powerful, so they could easily summon powerful water spells in order to douse the flames inside the crater. However, what Lux needed was only an excuse to file a complaint to the Dragon King. This was also his way of telling the King of Dragons that if he wanted to play dirty, he could play dirty as well. The mayor almost gagged after hearing Lux's threat. He was really tempted to order his guards to capture the half-elf and lock him up in prison. However, if he did that, he would have to face the Dragon King and come up with a good excuse for his action. Although he was confident that the Dragon King would side with him due to the current situation, there was still a chance that he would be punished for interfering with the new owner of the mountainous region that they had been treating as their garbage dump for years. What do you want? The mayor asked. A truce, Lux replied. From now on, you are not allowed to dump garbage anywhere on this floating island. Although I only own the mountainous area, I dislike smelling garbage that has been placed right in front of my doorstep. The mayor glared at the red-headed teenager while making cracking sounds with his clawed hands. You really think you have the authority to order me around, half-elf? Well, you really think you have the authority to order me around? Lux replied. You might be the mayor of Pygmalion, but I am the owner of the pit. This is my home court, and you are the one trespassing on it. The guards who were escorting the mayor found this whole conversation silly. If they had their way, they would have instantly knocked the half-elf unconscious, bound him in chains, and taken to their prison without even bothering to talk to him. However, Sethis, who was Lux's supervisor, stood not far away from the half-elf, with his arms crossed over his chest. The half-elf was his responsibility, and if anything happened to him, the Dragon King might punish him for not doing his job properly. The mayor and the guards might be able to deal with the half-elf, but they couldn't possibly attack Sethis, who was notorious in their domain for being spoiled by his grandmother, who was one of the Dragon King's most steadfast supporters. Right now, they were in a pinch, not knowing how to proceed. The standoff lasted for several minutes as both sides glared at each other. Sethis, who originally didn't know what the half-elf was thinking, gloated in his heart. Although he disliked the half-elf, he also disliked the mayor of Pygmalion, because there was a time when the latter chastised him for not living up to the name of his family, shaming their family's history. Damn, I don't really know how this is going to turn out, but this half-elf sure is guts, Sethis thought as he looked at Lux, who stood alone, facing hundreds of dragonborns that belonged to Pygmalion's city guards. Soon, more dragonborns and dragons showed up on the third island, because the wind mages were about to reach their limit. They wanted to know what the mayor was doing because the smoke wasn't receding in the slightest. In fact, it was becoming denser, turning the wind mages' efforts to keep the smoke from entering the city a city-wide concern. Guards, capture this bastard, the mayor shouted. Don't worry, I'll take all the responsibility. Extinguish those flames now. The weakest among the guards of Pygmalion were initiates, but there were dozens of rankers mixed in with them. Knowing that he was at a disadvantage, Lux didn't have any intention to resist. However, something unexpected happened. The dragon token suddenly shot out of Lux's storage ring and emitted a beam of light towards the heavens. The sun had just set, so the brilliant radiance could be seen even from miles away. A moment later, a loud dragon roar, filled with rage, reverberated in the sky. Kia's visage that was nearly 100 meters tall appeared behind Lux, eyeing the dragonborns with great hostility. He had seen how the Dragon King treated the person he chose, and he was very dissatisfied with the arrangement the king made for Lux. However, he didn't say anything and let the half-elf to think of a way to manage the situation himself. Kia's thought that Lux had resolved to let himself be bullied, but he was wrong. After seeing the half-elf's defiance against those who wished to trample on his right, the crystal dragon decided that enough was enough and made his appearance. Although he couldn't materialize his entire body, and could only appear as an apparition, he still decided to make an appearance. He felt that it was not only Lux's right that was being trampled, but also his own dignity as an elder dragon. Capital city of Rex Lapis. The Dragon King heard a dragon roar in the distance, and shifted his gaze towards the east. The nostalgic roar filled with defiance resonated inside his head as his gaze moved through his castle walls until he saw the standoff in the outer reaches. As the Dragon King, he could see everything inside his domain if he wanted to. The moment Kia's visage appeared in the sky, the king of all dragons narrowed his eyes as he gazed at the crystal dragon, who had gotten into a huge argument with him hundreds of years ago. "Now you show yourself," the Dragon King snorted before standing on his throne. "Kiaza, you don't have the courage to show your face to me, but you appear so easily when that mortal is being threatened. Looks like you really don't have the guts to face me." A moment later, the Dragon King disappeared from his throne. Since the dragon that he had been waiting for had finally made his appearance, he decided to come and see him, so that the two of them could have a proper talk. Although hundreds of years had passed, the Dragon King still wanted to see and talk to the Crystal Dragon, who had given up the right for succession for the throne of the Dragon King. Kiaza's visage stood behind Lux with his wings spread wide. His angry features looked down on the Dragonborns, who were about to capture the half-elf, intimidating them into stopping their actions. A crystal dragon. The mayor frowned as he looked up at the giant apparition. "Wait, you look a little familiar." As the mayor was trying to recall where he had seen Kiaza's form before, a gust of wind suddenly blew from behind him. "It's been hundreds of years, Kiaza. Have you been well?" A humanoid golden dragon with golden eyes gazed at the crystal dragon with a smile. "Why, your majesty?" The mayor, as well as the other dragonborns, all knelt down as they paid tribute to their high king. Kiaza ignored the Dragon King and simply glared at the mayor of the city of Pygmalion, making the latter flinch due to the concentrated anger and hostility that the crystal dragon directed at him. Seeing that the crystal dragon was ignoring him, the Dragon King glanced at the blazing crater in the distance, as well as the black smoke rising up in the air, before frowning. "Sethis, what happened here?" the Dragon King asked. Sethis respectfully pressed his hands together as he narrated exactly how the events transpired. As a member of the royal guards, he had sworn an oath not to lie to the Dragon King, so he reported everything, without missing a single detail. The Dragon King listened to Sethis' full report, before shifting his gaze to the red-headed teenager who had caused the incident. He never thought that the one that Kiaza chose would be so bold as to openly cause hardship for the city that turned his territory a garbage dump. The mayor listened to Sethis' report and frowned. However, he wasn't too worried. It was the Dragon King that had told him that it was fine to throw garbage on the third floating island, as long as it wasn't on the mountainous region that belonged to Lux. Since that was the case, the mayor ordered that all the wastes of their city be dumped at the foot of the mountain, surrounding the half-elf's domain with filth. However, he didn't expect Lux to retaliate in a manner that would cause a city-wide pollution outbreak and make his citizens suffer. "This is our first meeting," the Dragon King said to the red-headed teenager who was standing with his arms crossed over his chest. "So, why aren't you kneeling?" As if making his point, he released a pressure that forced the half-elf to kneel, making Lux's head touch the floor. "You're still the same. Whenever you don't get your way, you don't hesitate to use force to make others submit. How childish." Kiaza snorted as he gazed at the Dragon King, whose lips rose slightly after hearing the crystal dragon's words. "Feel like talking to me now?" the Dragon King asked. "Your attempt is quite laughable," Kiaza replied. "Wouldn't it stain your reputation if rumors start to spread that the king of all dragons visited a garbage dump to take a piss?" The mayor and the Dragonborn were surprised because the crystal dragon seemed to not have a single shred of respect for the Dragon King. However, what surprised them more was that the Dragon King didn't seem to be offended by how the crystal dragon treated him. In fact, from their perspective, the Dragon King even seemed amused that the crystal dragon was mocking him. "It pains me to look at you, dear brother," the Dragon King stated, the undisputed genius of Dragonkind, reduced to a spirit without a real body. "It seems that fate wasn't kind to you." "It also pains me to look at you," Kiaza sneered, the reigning Dragon King, and still needed to play these childish games to get my attention. "What's wrong?" "Your wife doesn't pay attention to you, and makes you sleep on the floor." "Wait, don't tell me you can't get it up anymore. How pitiful. This is what you get for being vain." The Dragonborns at the scene almost choked after hearing the crystal dragon's reply. No one in Karshvar Draconis would dare ridicule the Dragon King because this would result in capital punishment. Although the Dragon King was very strict and ruled with an iron fist, he also made their kingdom prosper, preventing anyone from breaking the order of the Dragonkind. "You still speak brazenly without considering the consequences." The Dragon King's tone was still calm, but his gaze became sharp like a sword about to decapitate his foe. "Did it ever cross your mind that I might punish this half-elf in your stead? It has been a while since we had a public execution. Maybe you want to commemorate this day with his head getting chopped off." Kiaza chuckled before giving the Dragon King a look of ridicule. "A public execution?" Kiaza smirked. "Do you dare?" The question, "Do you dare?" reverberated in the surroundings, making all the Dragonborns feel a chill run down their spine. They knew that their king didn't like to be challenged in an arrogant manner, and those who had dared to do so in the past found themselves dying before they even knew what hit them. "This half-elf is dead." That was the general consensus of the Dragonborns and the dragons who were at the scene. The Dragon King and Kiaza stared at each other with contemptuous gazes that lasted for several minutes. Everyone remained silent. They didn't know the consequences of making a sound, disturbing them and suddenly creating a spark that would light a bomb. Finally, after several minutes, it was the Dragon King who broke the silence first. "Can we not really talk in a civilized manner, like we did hundreds of years ago?" the Dragon King asked. "If you wish, I can help you gain a new body that will restore your former glory. Your favorite ovals at N.O.V.L. bin com. We have nothing more to talk about," Kiaza replied. "As for a new body, I don't need your charity. Also, one last thing." The Crystal Dragon gave the mayor a sidelong glance before shifting his gaze back to the Dragon King, who was waiting for him to continue his words. He could tell that the Golden Dragon, who ruled the Dragon Kingdom, didn't think much of Lux, but he didn't care. In time, he will understand. But that time was not now. "If you think you can bully this child, then I hate to disappoint you, but he's not the type that takes things lying down," Kiaza stated. "He's the same as me. I won't take things lying down. If you don't want your precious city to fall from the sky, make sure to handle this properly." The Crystal Dragon's body turned into particles of light before returning to the dragon token that was now lying on the ground beside Lux. The half-elf was still subjected to a powerful pressure, so he remained in a kneeling position, with his head touching the ground. The Dragon King remained silent and stared at the half-elf, as if trying to understand what Kiaza saw in him, making the Crystal Dragon defend him so much. "Why, your majesty," the mayor said a minute after the Crystal Dragon disappeared. "In what manner should we handle this situation?" The Dragon King glanced at the blazing crater that was still spewing flames high up in the air, as well as the dense black smoke that was rising towards the sky. "Handle this matter peacefully," the Dragon King replied. "I believe that you have what it takes to resolve this simple issue." "Yes, oh of course, your majesty." "Good." The Dragon King then shifted his gaze to Sethis, making the latter very nervous. "After this incident is resolved, return to the capital to give me a full report," the Dragon King ordered. "You are to continue to supervise him, and make sure that this incident does not happen again." "Understood." Sethis patted his chest resolutely before giving his answer. "Yes, your majesty," Sethis vowed. "I will not let you down." The Dragon King nodded and gave Lux one last glance before disappearing from where he stood. Since Kiaza refused to have a proper discussion, he would wait until the Crystal Dragon's rage was pacified. For now, he decided to pay a little more attention to the half-elf that the Crystal Dragon was nurturing. He wanted to know what Lux was truly capable of. As soon as the Dragon King disappeared, the pressure that pressed on Lux's body also vanished without a trace. "Are you okay, Eiko?" Lux asked the baby slime, who had hidden herself inside Lux's robes the moment the Dragon King appeared. "Ha!" Eiko replied as she crawled out of Lux's robe and returned to her rightful position, which was on top of the red-headed teenager's head. The half-elf then casually dusted off his forehead and pants to remove the dirt that stuck to them after he had been forced to kneel. A moment later, a sigh reached Lux's ears as the mayor of the city of Pygmalion approached him with a serious expression on his face. "We need to talk," the mayor said. Since the Dragon King ordered him to resolve this matter peacefully, he had no choice but to converse with the half-elf, whose true origins were not known. If possible, he wanted to restart their relationship from scratch. After seeing the Crystal Dragon up close, the mayor finally remembered who he was. The Crystal Dragon, Kiaza, the one who should have been crowned Dragon King, but vanished before the coronation, leaving the throne to his older brother, who now sat on the golden throne and ruled the entirety of Karshvar Draconis. 4 days after the incident, the flames that raged non-stop and devoured all the filth inside the crater finally came to a stop. Lux and the mayor had a talk and, upon the half-elf's request, the flames were not extinguished so that all the wastes inside the crater that had piled up for hundreds of years would be burned completely, leaving nothing behind but ash. Those who specialized in wind and earth magic worked together in order to create a wall, preventing the smoke from reaching the city of Pygmalion. Fortunately, the direction of the wind changed after several hours, easing the hardship of the citizens of the city. After realizing that their new neighbor was *T crazy, they decided to not antagonize him anymore, and settled with creating a big crater in the wasteland of the lower realm to dump their trash into. Updated from N.0.V. Ulbin, Co. Am. The filth that had been dumped at the base of the mountain was also cleared out, making the half-elf sigh in relief. When everything was over, he then shared this news with his guild members, who celebrated after hearing that the issue was finally resolved. "Ha ha ha," Sai laughed. "I knew it. It was right to let them eat *T. Lux, we might have won today, but make sure not to do anything reckless in the future," Sidwin said. "Use negotiations first, but if negotiations fail, Only then can we start blowing things up. It wouldn't be too late to do it then. It's good to know that we can finally have our headquarters built without worrying about filth and our neighbors, Tharam replied. I'm itching to visit the outer reaches and see how they manage the order of their city. I'm also very curious as well, Keelan commented. Do they also have an adventurers guild? I'm dying to form connections with its guildmaster. All in all, the replies of his guild members were positive. Lux was also very eager to start building his guild headquarters. However, even though the fire had been extinguished, the crater was still spewing out white smoke, so it was impossible to start the construction right away. The half-elf would have to wait another day or two before he could look for a good location for his guild headquarters to be built. Sethis, who was Lux's supervisor, temporarily left the half-elf to report to the Dragon King in the capital city of Rex Lapis. Since Lux wasn't doing anything at the moment, the black-scaled dragonborn decided to visit home. He proceeded to tell his grandmother about the crazy guy that he was in charge of supervising after his meeting with the Dragon King was over. Aiko, who was humming on top of Lux's head and swaying side to side while the half-elf cooked their lunch, suddenly paused and gazed at the crater that was still spewing white smoke. The baby slime blinked a couple of times before jumping up and down on Lux's head in excitement. Ha, don't worry, lunch will be cooked soon. Ha, the mountain, what's wrong with the mountain? Ha. The half-elf was confused because Aiko kept on telling him to go inside the giant crater to take a look. What is inside the mountain? Lux asked as he picked up the baby slime, who was jumping up and down his head, to have a better understanding of what she was trying to say. Ha, ha, ha. Aiko then told Lux that she could sense some treasures inside the crater, making the half-elf's eyes widen in shock. The baby slime had the treasure hunter title, which allowed Aiko to sense if there were any treasures near her location. It didn't have a definitive range, so Lux didn't know how far this treasure detecting ability reached. Perhaps, due to the filth that had been piled up like a mountain, the baby slime hadn't been able to detect anything at first. However, now that the trash was reduced to ashes, the baby slime was now able to pick up the faint traces of treasures that had been buried under garbage for hundreds of years. Since Aiko was adamant that they go to the crater, Lux decided to put their lunch on hold and do as she said. Wearing the Favonius legacy, the half-elf flew towards the crater and used the power of wind to create a dome of air around him, shielding him from the smoke that would make his eyes water and throat itch. Since there was nearly zero visibility, Lux's descent was very slow. The heat didn't affect him much because he was immune to flames, just like red dragons. Aiko, on the other hand, was surprisingly resistant to heat as well, as she sat on top of Lux's head, with a determined look on her face. Finally, after several minutes, Lux's feet finally landed on the bottom of the crater. He looked around, but the white smoke was quite dense, preventing him from seeing past a meter in front of him. Only the dome of air that surrounded his body kept the white smoke at bay, allowing the half-elf to breathe easily. Where do you sense it, Aiko? Lux asked. Ha! Aiko summoned a small ball of fire that hovered in front of Lux. A moment later, the small flame started to fly away slowly as if telling the half-elf to follow it. Understanding what Aiko was trying to tell him, Lux followed the small flame and waded into the smoke-infested crater. 10 minutes later, the flame landed on the ground in front of the half-elf. Using the power of wind, Lux blasted the dense smoke away to better see what was on the ground. There, he found a small purple gemstone the size of a fist that glowed faintly. Out of curiosity, the half-elf picked it up and used his appraisal skill to identify it. However, after seeing the information that appeared in front of him, the red-headed teenager almost dropped the purple gemstone in his hand, which was actually not a gemstone, but a kind of extremely rare metal that would make the blacksmith's, Randolph's, eyes turn bloodshot if he saw it. Draconium ore, type, metal rank, S. This purplish ore, that resembles a gemstone is very sturdy and is said to be as hard as dragon scales, making it impossible to melt unless a special kind of flame is used. If a small portion of this ore is used as a crafting ingredient, the minimum rating of a successful finished product is of the mythical rank. According to researchers, this type of metal can only be found in places where dragons live. No one knows how this metal came to be. The cold hiss escaped Lux's lips as he glanced at the information in front of him. However, before he could regain his composure, the baby slime on top of his head drew in a breath of air then blew it outwards, creating a gust of wind, making the white smoke in front of them disperse for several meters. You must be kidding me, Lux muttered in disbelief as he looked at the ground in front of him. Dozens of purple ores, similar to what he was holding, glowed faintly on the ground. The extremely rare metal, which was said to be as hard as dragon scales and could create mythical, ranked equipment at the bare minimum, were scattered in front of him. Lux had a feeling that what he was seeing now was only a pitiful amount compared to what was still hidden behind the white smoke that covered his vision. Good thing Sai isn't here, Lux thought as he looked at the glowing ore in his hand. He was sure that if the shameless boar was with him, the latter would no doubt go crazy and fight with him to collect the ores, which he was seeing for the first time in his life. What did you say? Did you say draconium? Randolph, who saw Lux's report in the guild chat, immediately went bonkers after hearing that the half-elf had found a dozen of the extremely rare ore that was said to be as hard as dragon scales. Not even self-respecting blacksmiths would be able to remain calm after knowing that there was a chance for them to get their hands on the fabled ore that could only be found in places where dragons made their nests. Yes, master, Lux replied. I see dozens of them, but I am certain that there are probably hundreds, even thousands of them lying in this crater. The smoke is just simply too thick, so the visibility is very poor. I just reported it here to let you know that I'll get as many as I can, and give some of them to you once the guild headquarters is finished. Randolph couldn't sit still after hearing Lux's reply. If not for the fact that he couldn't teleport to where the half-elf was currently at, he might have already left everything behind in order to help him collect the precious ores, which was something every blacksmith would fight for. Sai, who liked every kind of treasure, was also unable to keep still. Its grandfather, Maximilian, was a blacksmith and a jewelsmith. He was very fond of rare ores, and he would often go to auction houses to bid for these rare metals. Sai knew that if its grandfather heard that its guildmaster was in possession of hundreds, perhaps thousands of rare ores, the saint would definitely go to where Lux was currently at without a second thought. My daddy, remember to give me some of them as well, Sai pleaded. I will give them to my grandpa, and I'm sure that he will be very happy to receive them. No need to give me 100 ores, 1,000 will do. Lux, who just read Kay's shameless message, chose to ignore it completely. At first, he thought that the boar wanted to only ask for a few dozens, because it didn't want hundreds of them. However, after seeing that it wanted thousands of the rare metal, the half-elf decided to pretend that he didn't see its message. Draconium, I smell good business, Lux, Keelan commented. You mentioned that you are low on funds, but do you know how much a pound of draconium costs on the black market? No. How much does it cost, Master Keelan? 1,000,000 gold coins at the minimum, and 3 at the maximum. If you sell it in an auction house, the price might go even higher. What? Sai cried out loud after seeing the message on its status page, which made the member of the Rowan tribe look at it in confusion. The boar was currently back in its tribe, along with Keen, because it was feeling a bit homesick. Also, it wanted to know if its grandpa had finished preparing the medicine for those that were suffering from the purple plague, but unfortunately, its grandpa was still in his special domain, and hadn't come out since it received the sacred white lotus from Sai. Hey, don't mind me, Sai said as it gazed at the people around it. I just dozed off and daydreamed a bit. The people around it nodded their heads in understanding and continued to barbecue pork chops for it. They knew that Sai loved pork chops, and the members of the Rowan tribe were more than happy to satisfy the boar's every wish. Keen, who was seated at the side, remained silent as he read the heated exchange that was happening inside the guild chat. As someone who was raised in the mountains, he had no idea how significant or precious the draconium ore was. Only after seeing Keelan's message, which said that the price it could fetch was millions of gold coins, did the skinny swordsman finally understand what kind of good fortune Lux had stumbled upon. Suddenly, someone, whom Lux didn't expect to join the conversation joined, making the other members look at his message in surprise. Draconium ore. If you need help mining them, the kobolds will be more than happy to help you mine for them, Cadmus said. The Draconian kobold was currently with Sid in the Savage Lands and doing some exploration. However, after finding out that Lux had found some Draconian ore, his racial memory kicked in, allowing him to better understand the situation. If I remember correctly, Draconium can be used to create extremely sturdy armor and powerful weapons, Cadmus commented. The records of our race said that those who were proficient in crafting them would be able to make mythical and even legendary weapons as long as their proficiency reached a certain threshold. Sai, who was reading the message, ignored the mythical part and just focused on the word legendary. If earlier it only felt as though it was unable to sit down properly, now, it was pacing back and forth, unable to keep itself calm. My daddy, is there really no other way for us to be there? I will definitely get everything. I mean, I will help you pick up everything and divide it evenly amongst our members. Don't you have the skill, guild summon or something to summon all of your guild members beside you? How about you summon us right now? We will definitely help you gather those treasures. Sai, I can see your greed all the way from here, Lux replied to the shameless boar, who was currently itching to get its hooves on the precious draconium ore. Even so, Lux felt that the boar's proposal wasn't a bad idea. If he had more hands to help him, gathering all the precious ore wouldn't take too much time. Just like Sai had said, Lux had a special privilege as the guild master of the only mythical guild in the world to summon all of his guild members to his side. This ability could be used in various ways, allowing Lux to instantly call forth powerful fighters when the right condition was met. Because of this, Lux glanced at his skill book to look at the guild summon skill that was available to him. Heaven's Call. This skill can be used once a day to summon all of your guild members to instantly be right beside you. Requirements for using Heaven's Call. The guild master must be standing inside a village, town or city. The guild master must be standing inside his own guild headquarters. Members have the right to accept or reject the summoning of their guild master. Those who reject the summons will remain where they are. After reading the information, Lux pondered for a bit if it was really a good idea to summon his guild members in the city of Pygmalion, so that they could help him harvest the draconium ore, while Sethus wasn't around to supervise him. Cadmus, I think your proposal is good. How long will it take you to recruit the kobolds that are proficient in mining? Lux asked. At least half a day, Cadmus replied. Sid and I are currently in the Savage Lands, but if we use the teleportation scroll we have in our possession, we can immediately arrive at the stronghold of Noria. From there, it will take me a few hours to reach our nest. However, once I have invited them to our guild, there will no longer be a problem in their transportation because you can summon them instantly. Lux nodded his head in understanding. Right now, the kobolds and him shared a very beneficial relationship, and he had no problem recruiting them to his guild. Unlike people, kobolds usually stayed inside their nest and expanded it by digging in the ground. Since they didn't have much interaction with other races, Lux's secret would be kept without any problems. Also, after coming to know about the benefits of his guild, most of the kobolds, who wanted to become strong, had already told Cadmus their intention of joining Lux's guild. Currently, there were over 50 kobolds who had joined Heaven's Gate, and were helping Cadmus explore the Savage Lands alongside Sid. These kobolds were rank 3 and rank 4 monsters, and they were getting stronger by the day thanks to the special buffs that increased their health, mana, and stamina regeneration, as well as the boost in experience points, allowing them to gain stat points faster. Very well, Lux stated. Inform me as soon as you have gathered all of your brethren. For the time being, I will collect as much as I can before others discover this great boon that fell on our heads. Cadmus agreed and told Lux that he would message him as soon as he returned to his nest to recruit the other kobolds. Well then, Aiko, let's get to work, Lux said. Ha! The baby slime jumped towards the ground and immediately crawled away, devouring all the draconium ore she came across. The white smoke didn't affect her much, and she didn't have any problems breathing. Also, her treasure hunter ability allowed her to pinpoint the exact locations of the ore, so despite the thick white smoke, she was able to collect the draconium ore without too much hardship. Lux, on the other hand, summoned his skeleton army to help him collect the ores lying on the ground. Since they didn't need to breathe and could faintly grasp the location of things imbued with heat and magic, the undead had no problem waiting around in the thick smoke as they picked up the ore along the way. The half-elf didn't stand idle either, and assisted them in collecting as much ore as possible. This work continued for 2 hours, until Lux and Aiko left the crater to have lunch. Both of them were quite hungry, so they left the undead to handle the collection of the draconium ore, while they ate and waited for the kobolds to join their ranks. The sun was just about to set when Lux received Cadmus' message, informing him that all of the kobolds who were willing to join his guild had been successfully recruited. Since time was of the essence, the half-elf immediately flew toward the city of Pygmalion, in order to summon them using his guild skill, Heaven's Call. After the incident, the mayor and Lux had come to a truce. Both sides would no longer do anything to harm each other's interest, and would cooperate with each other during times of need. Because Lux had the backing of Kiaza, the mayor of Pygmalion thought that it would be in his benefit to give the half-elf an opportunity to grow and develop his guild. After all, whether he liked it or not, the two of them were neighbors now. Since that was the case, it would be in their best interest to form a friendly partnership as no one knew what the future held. Of course, the mayor's opinion was not shared by the majority of the Dragonborns, as well as citizens of Pygmalion. For them, Lux was an eyesore and should be banned from entering their city. But, since the mayor had already said that the Dragon King wanted this matter to be settled peacefully, no one dared to voice their opposition out loud. Lux went straight to the mayor's house to inform him that he would be summoning his guild members inside the city and asked for his permission. The mayor, whose name was Joran, agreed to Lux's request and gave him permission to summon his guild members in the plaza, where the teleportation gate that allowed the citizens of Pygmalion to return and arrive from the lower realm was located. Since the city was a hub for people of different races to mingle with each other, a teleportation gate was created to allow those that had been given permission by the Dragon King to travel from the lower realm to the outer reaches of Karshvar Draconis. The other races were also not allowed to leave the outer reaches unless they were summoned by the Dragon King, or given official permission to travel to the other parts of Karshvar Draconis. Although Lux's guild members hadn't received the permission of the Dragon King to enter the outer reaches, Jorn decided to give them temporary gate passes to enter and leave his city, but warned Lux that he should tell his guild members that they were forbidden to go anywhere outside of the outer reaches. Lux promised to obey this rule, and he was escorted by some of Jorin's personal guards to the plaza. The mayor did this because of one simple reason. He was very curious to know what kind of people Lux's guild members were like, but he didn't want to appear to be overly curious. So he decided to let his guards accompany the half-elf with the order to report everything when they returned to his residence. After arriving at the plaza, Lux chose a place that wasn't too crowded, and pressed his closed fist over his chest. Heaven's call. Several flashes of light illuminated the surroundings as Lux's guild members appeared in the plaza one by one. Is this the legendary city of dragons? Sai asked as it looked around with great curiosity. Fei, do you sense any treasure around? Just whisper it to me, quietly, so we can get it when no one is looking. Fei scanned her surroundings before shaking her head. Clearly, she didn't detect any treasures nearby, which made Sai slightly disappointed. Aside from Sai, there were also others who decided to accept the invite to come sightsee for the time being. Randolph, Keelan, Keen, Cadmus, and his kobold brethren all looked around their surroundings with great curiosity. The others also wanted to come, but since they had responsibilities to attend to, they decided to put their visit on hold until the guild headquarters was built. Suddenly, a commotion started as soon as the dragonborns around them noticed the kobolds that had arrived in their city. What are these pieces of trash doing here in our city? A dragonborn shouted. You filthy kobolds are not welcome here. Go back to where you came from and stay there. What are these pieces of trash doing here in our city? A dragonborn shouted. You filthy kobolds are not welcome here. Go back to where you came from and stay there. The kobolds, who had been called pieces of trash, glared at the dragonborn and shouted back. Yuck. What is this? A wannabe dragon, one of the kobold warriors shouted. Do they really think that just because you have dragon scales, dragon horns, and dragon wings, you are dragons? Another kobold commented. What a bunch of fakes. Calm down, brother. This is why they are dragon wannabes, not dragonborns. You make sense, brother. These pieces of sh*t should just smash their heads on a rock or boulder and get it over with. As if a spark had been ignited, the dragonborns and the kobolds started to hurl insults at each other, making Lux blink his eyes in confusion. I forgot to tell you, we don't like dragonborns much, Cadmus commented as he glared at the dragonborns, who were talking crap about his brethren. Kobolds worship dragons, but for us, dragonborns are just fakes. Naturally, dragonborns think of us as lowly creatures because we are born weak and aspire to become dragons. This is why we don't get along well. I see. Lux nodded his head in understanding, thinking that the situation might get worse and end up in a fistfight. The half-elf asked Cadmus to pacify his brethren and make them stop hurling insults at the dragonborns. Right now, they were only visitors to the city, so they should not antagonize the people that lived in it. Cadmus did his best to pacify the kobolds, and since their guild master and leader had spoken, they did their best to rein in their anger and endure the insults that the dragonborns were still shouting in their direction. Even the mayor's guards, who had come to escort Lux, were looking at the kobolds in disdain, making Lux shake his head helplessly. Let's go, Lux ordered as he led the way outside of the city. The sooner we leave, the better. Due to the commotion, many spectators gathered at the scene to see what was happening. However, after seeing that the source of the problem was kobolds, they joined the dragonborns in making fun of them, thinking that they would get into their good graces in the process. Cadmus glared hatefully at these people who just couldn't keep their mouths shut but didn't do anything aside from that. Lux was right. They were the visitors to the city, so it was only natural that they behaved themselves if they didn't want to risk being kicked out or, worse, exiled from the outer reaches. After leaving the city gates, the kobolds finally managed to breathe a sigh of relief. However, just as Lux was thinking about how to get the kobolds to fly towards the third island, several dragons landed in front of them. Wow, a real dragon. God, my prayers have been answered. I am not worthy, Your Excellencies. We are not worthy of standing in your presence. Please, allow us to kneel and pay tribute to all of you. One by one all the kobolds prostrated themselves in front of the dragons, making the corner of Kay's lips twitch. However, to Lux's surprise, even Cadmus was looking at the dragons with great respect and adoration, which reminded the half-elf of how much kobolds worshipped dragons. These little ones are funny. One of the dragons laughed as they looked at the prostrating kobolds, who did their best to flatter them. It's been a while since we've been treated in this manner, another dragon commented. Such novelty. In Karshvar Draconis, although dragons were revered, no one would go so far as to treat them the way kobolds did. Because of this, They looked at the kobolds fondly and thought that having them around wasn't such a bad idea. This is the first time I am seeing kobolds in the city of Pygmalion. A wind dragon approached the kobolds with a smile. Speak, what is your purpose for coming here? The dragons were talking to them using telepathy, which was the special blessing bestowed upon them by the god of the world, allowing them to communicate with all of the creatures regardless of their race, gender, and language. This was similar to Aiko's speech ability. As long as they were talking to sentient creatures that were able to communicate, having a conversation was not a problem. Judging by the tone of its voice, the half-elf assumed that the wind dragon was the leader of the young dragons, all of whom were just as big as Bedivir's dragon mount. Great one, we came here due to the summons of our guild master. Cadmus replied to the wind dragon's question. We are planning to build a guild headquarters on the third floating island of the outer reaches. Ah, so it was you. The wind dragon shifted its attention to the half-elf, who was one of the people that weren't kneeling in front of them. I heard that there was a bold half-elf that had made the pit his new home. It seems that you plan to build your guild headquarters there. How interesting. The wind dragon then glanced at the prostrating kobolds on the ground, then back at Lux. Well then, how are you planning on bringing these little ones to the third floating island? The wind dragon asked. Aside from that draconian kobold, none of them can fly. Lux scratched his head because this was the problem he was facing. Your Excellency, truth be told, I haven't thought that far, Lux replied. I needed a lot of help, so I thought that bringing them here wasn't a bad idea. But, now that they are here, I am having trouble thinking of ways to bring them to the third island. The wind dragon chuckled before looking down on the kobolds, who were still bowing their heads in worship. Well then, since we are in a good mood today, how about we offer you guys a little help? The wind dragon said before it flapped its wings, summoning a gust of air, making the kobolds who were kneeling in the ground float. Your help is greatly appreciated, Your Excellency. Lux bowed respectfully to the wind dragon. Once our guild headquarters are complete, feel free to visit us. We will do our best to provide you with our best hospitality. Oh, very well. I'll come and visit one of these days. The wind dragon smirked before glancing at its comrades. Half an hour later, all the kobolds, as well as Lux, the other guild members, were transferred to the third floating island, with the help of the wind dragons, allowing them to see the place where their guild headquarters would be born. Even after the dragons left, the kobolds were still giddy from the shock of being able to meet dragons for the first time. They were similar to the fans of idols who had just been given the opportunity to shake their idols' hands, still stuck in La La Land. Even Cadmus, whom Lux had thought to be the most stable of the bunch, wasn't able to stop himself from grinning, showing just how happy he was. If they are acting like this just by meeting dragons, I wonder if they will all faint once they get the chance to see the Dragon King, Lux mused as he looked at the bunch of happy kobolds. However, just as he was about to tell them to snap out of their daze, he faintly heard the sound of running, making him turn his head to the direction it was coming from. We're rich, Sai shouted as it ran full speed toward the crater. Fei, just tell me where the treasures are. Okay, I'll grab them as soon as I can. Da why? Fei replied positively as she pointed in the direction of the crater. After arriving near the crater, the baby golden slime started to sense the treasures that were present inside the crater. Because of this, it informed Sai about its discovery, prompting the boar to run full speed in an attempt to grab as many treasures as it could before the kobolds got to them. Cadmus, take care of that please, Lux said in a fed-up tone as he pointed at the boar, who was making a mad dash towards the crater. Truth be told, he didn't want to invite Sai to come, but since the guild summon affected all of his guild members, the boar decided to come along and look for treasures as well. Soon the loud squealing of a pig being slaughtered resounded in the surroundings as Cadmus grabbed hold of Kay's body to prevent it from going inside the crater. Cadmus, keep watch over that troublemaker. Lux gave the boar a disdainful glance before ordering the kobolds to enter the crater to start their mining operations. No, I want treasures too, Sai wailed as it was held down by Cadmus, whose current strength was at the peak of rank 5 alpha monster. Lux was sure that it was only a matter of time before the draconian kobold became a Daimos ranked alpha monster, becoming the strongest fighter in his guild. Sai had no chance in hell to beat Cadmus, even if it took on its Hildevisni form, or even if it activated its third gear, which specialized in countering magical attacks. Calm down, Sai, Lux said. I'll give you a share of the ores when it's all collected. I know that your grandpa is a grandmaster blacksmith and a jewelsmith. I also owe him a favor, so I will not be stingy when it comes to him. Oh, then in that case, can I look for treasures in other parts of this island? Sai asked in relief after knowing that its grandpa would also get some draconium ores that he could use to craft items for it. I promise that I won't go inside the crater. Lux pondered a bit before reluctantly nodding his head. Only the mountainous regions of the third floating island belonged to him. If Sai were to look for treasures away from the mountains, The half-elf didn't mind allowing it to go treasure hunting. Okay, but make sure not to go near the crater, okay? You can count on me. Fei, let's go. Sai, who had regained its freedom, ran in the opposite direction of the crater, with the golden slime perched on its head. Now that it had secured its grandpa's share of the ore, it decided to just go look for treasures somewhere else, giving Lux some peace of mind as well. The kobolds worked alongside the skeletons who were also inside the crater, and carried out their roles well. The majority of kobolds that joined Lux's guild were already rank 3 and rank 4 monsters. Those that had accompanied Cadmus and Sid to explore the savage lands had the highest levels among the bunch because they had their share of battling stronger monsters alongside Cadmus and Sid. What Lux didn't know was that his guild was quite special. In truth, monsters like kobolds couldn't become members of just any guild. It only worked in his guild because its rank was mythical, allowing even monsters to become guild members. The mining operation lasted all through the night until morning came. When the first rays of sunlight appeared over the horizon, the last traces of white smoke inside the crater disappeared. Lux almost didn't believe his eyes when he saw the amount of ore that had been collected from inside the crater. There were over 100,000 draconium ores in the temporary guild storage, which the kobolds had made as a place to dump the ores they had collected. The inventory slots of all the skeletons were also full, allowing Lux to see 99 stacks of draconium ore in their inventories. Each skeleton was only able to carry 100 draconium ores, which was a very pitiful number. But if the fact that this precious metal was worth 1,000,000 gold coins per pound was taken into consideration, each skeleton was like a walking treasury overflowing with gold coins. The half-elf smiled at that thought. 143,879 draconium ores. Not bad, Lux thought as he got the final total of the ore that was taken from the crater. Also, the kobolds informed him that they could sense other precious ores and gemstones buried underneath the mountain range, making the half-elf consider moving Cadmus' entire kobold nest to the floating island. 4 hours later, when the sun was almost at its zenith, a black-scaled dragonborn descended near the crater. It was none other than Sethis, who had just returned from the capital city of the dragon race. He was Lux's supervisor, so he couldn't stay away for a long time due to the order given to him by the Dragon King. However, as soon as he landed near the crater, he saw over 100 kobolds roasting meat over bonfires. Kobolds, just what are these lowly creatures doing here? Sethis frowned after seeing the kobolds on the third island of the outer reaches. This must be that half-elf's doing. Just like the other dragonborns, he had an inherent dislike for the kobolds. For their race, kobolds were just delusional creatures who aspired to become dragons even though they were just a bunch of lowly monsters. Without wasting any more time, the dragonborn went to find the half-elf, who was currently discussing the possibility of having more kobolds join his guild with Cadmus in order to help mine the mountains to look for resources. Cadmus thought that this idea was good because it would allow his race to be close to the dragon race, whom they worshipped. Also, now that Lux could sell the draconium ore for a hefty price, he could build a teleportation gate that would give him access to Leaf Village, as well as the underground nest, where the grotto of the Forbidden Guardian had been located. That was also where Lux had met Kiaza, and where he received the dragon token from him. Just as the two were about to decide how many more kobolds would join the guild, Sethis appeared in front of them with a displeased expression on his face. "Oi, Lux, why are there filthy kobolds in the outer reaches?" Sethis asked. "Just what were you thinking? Don't you know that we hate these lowly monsters second only to abyssal monsters?" The dragonborn didn't even bother to hide his contempt even though a draconian kobold was sitting right beside Lux. In his eyes, it didn't matter if a kobold grew horns and wings. Kobolds were still kobolds, no matter how much they tried to aspire to become a part of the dragon race. Cadmus frowned as he pointed at the dragonborn, who was starting to annoy him. Lux scratched his head before introducing Sethis to him. "Cadmus, this is Sethis," Lux said. "He is the supervisor assigned by the Dragon King to ensure that I don't do anything troublesome in the outer reaches." The half-elf then paused and made a gesture to Sethis. "Sethis, this is Cadmus. He is the leader of the kobolds that are part of my guild. I hope the two of you can get along. I refuse. I don't like wannabes." Sethis and Cadmus glared at each other, which made the half-elf sigh in his heart. "Okay, I don't mind if the two of you don't get along, but just try not to get in each other's way." Lux gave up trying to patch up the relationship between the dragonborn and the draconian kobold because they were like water and oil. "Lux, let me remind you that I am your supervisor," Sethis stated icily. "I am here to ensure that you don't do anything troublesome and jeopardize the safety of Karshvar Draconis as a whole. You bringing these lowly insects to our land is like bringing a stain to our dignity. I want you to expel them at once from this island, and never allow them to set their measly foot in it ever again." Lux frowned before he stood up and stared at the dragonborn with his arms crossed over his chest. "Let me remind you that this mountain range is my domain, and I have every right to allow anyone to step foot in it," Lux replied. "If you have a problem with it, go and report me to the Dragon King. Your words alone are not enough for me to change my mind." "Very well. I hope you're ready for the consequences." Cadmus sneered before flying away. Although he had just arrived at the outer reaches, he didn't mind going back to the capital city of Rex Lapis to report the latest fiasco that the half-elf had caused. "Are you not worried that you will be punished by the Dragon King?" Cadmus asked. Even though he hated dragonborns, the Dragon King was an existence that was like a god to them. They would obey his command even if that command was for them to be exiled from the outer reaches. "It's fine," Lux shrugged. "I'm sure the Dragon King wouldn't mind having a few kobolds around." Kobolds usually serve dragons, and dragons were quite aware of this as well. Unlike the dragonborns, who hated kobolds, the dragons treated the little monsters as servants, who would do miscellaneous things for them. Lux wasn't too worried about the Dragon King's decision on this matter because he planned to keep the kobolds inside the mountain range. If the dragonborns didn't want to see them, all they needed to do was avoid the third island, and there would be no problem at all. "Forget about him." Lux waved his hand as if to end the matter with Sethis. "Let's look for a place to build our guild headquarters." Cadmus nodded and followed behind Lux. Now that the crater of the mountain had been cleared, it was time to build their guild headquarters and officially start the activities of their guild. "Why, Your Majesty, are you sure about this?" Sethis asked in disbelief after hearing the Dragon King's reply. He had traveled as fast as he could to return to the capital city of Rex Lapis in order to inform him about what was happening on the third island of the outer reaches. But the answer that the Dragon King gave him wasn't the answer he was hoping to hear. "Let him do as he wishes." That was what the Dragon King told the black-scaled dragonborn, which shocked not only him, but the dragonborns that were serving as his ministers in the throne room. Just as Lux expected, the Dragon King didn't really care if he brought some kobolds inside his domain. For dragons, kobolds were similar to cute pets that followed their every order. As long as the kobolds belonging to Lux's faction wouldn't do anything to cause harm to his kingdom, he was willing to give them permission to stay in the outer reaches. "Won't you reconsider, Your Majesty?" one of the ministers asked. "If the kobolds are here, there will be unrest within the kingdom." The Dragon King shifted his attention to the minister. He spoke up, making the latter flinch. "Are you defying my order?" the Dragon King asked in an icy tone. "And no, of course not, Your Majesty." "Then shut your trap." The Dragon King's words resounded inside the throne room, making all the dragonborns, as well as dragons inside it, bow their heads in submission. Due to their innate hate for the kobolds, they had forgotten that the person who was sitting on the golden throne was the king of all dragons. His words were law, and no one in Arshvar Draconis had the right to question his orders. "This is why kobolds are better than you lot," the Dragon King snorted. "At least they know their place. It seems that all of you have gotten too comfortable in the positions you hold at the moment. Should I weed out those who are not willing to carry out my orders? Please forgive us, Your Majesty. We have erred. Please, have mercy on us." "Have mercy on us?" The Dragon King smirked before giving his orders. "Return to your duties, and don't question my orders a second time." "Yes, Your Majesty." All the ministers left the throne room as if they had been given the royal pardon. Even Sethis hurriedly left because he was afraid that if he stayed for a second longer, the Dragon King would ask him to remain in the throne room and punish him for reporting something so petty. When the Dragon King was left all alone in the throne room, a door appeared behind the throne, revealing a secret passage that was only known to the royal family. The Dragon King smiled because he already knew the identity of the person that came to see him. "Father, did I pick the wrong time to visit you?" a young lady, whose skin was as white as cream and eyes as red as rubies, asked. Her long purple hair that rested behind her back swayed faintly as she sat on her father's lap and looked up at him with an apologetic look on her face. "You can visit me any time, love." The Dragon King looked fondly at his daughter as he playfully poked the two small, golden dragon horns that were only an inch tall on her head. "What brings you here?" She was his pride and treasure, and very few individuals had managed to gaze upon her beauty because the Dragon King was overprotective of her. "Mother asked me to tell you to visit her soon," the young lady said with a smile. "My little brother is about to be born, and she wants you to be there when he hatches from his egg." The Dragon King's eyes widened because he thought that it would still take a week before his latest child would hatch from his egg. Even so, his surprise didn't last long before a chuckle escaped his lips. "Looks like our family has grown a little bigger," the Dragon King said softly. "Valerie, make sure to take good care of your little brother, okay? And I'm so excited to play with him." Valerie nodded her head. "All right, since I finished my work early, let's go see your mother." "Okay." "Yes." The purple-haired beauty happily grabbed hold of her father's right hand and dragged him towards the secret passage. Now that her little brother was about to hatch, their family of 6 would soon become a family of 7. Third island of the outer reaches. I think it will be best that we build our guild headquarters on that mountain over there, Kellen commented. The height is just right and it overlooks the crater. That's a good idea. Randolph rubbed his beard in agreement. The crater can be used as the training ground, or we can also build a town there in the future. Since we can also construct our own teleportation gate, we don't need to go to the city of Pygmalion for transportation. Keelan nodded. If the town grows big enough, we can even start trading with the other cities of Karshvar Draconis. I think we'll need to revise our marketing strategy in the future. Lux crossed his arms over his chest as he looked at the mountain that was ideal to build his guild headquarters on. Suddenly, an image appeared inside his head of a white marble castle, overlooking a prosperous city, that even surpassed the city of Pygmalion. I'm just building a guild, and not a kingdom, the half-elf mused as he set aside the image that appeared inside his head. One step at a time. Lux, there's no need to bite off more than you can chew. Grabbing the waists of the two dwarves, the half-elf carried them towards the mountain where they would be building their guild headquarters. A few minutes later, they safely landed on the ground and gazed down at the crater, taking in the view in front of them. Not bad. Keelan nodded. This place is perfect. By the way, how are we going to build our guild headquarters? Randolph asked. Don't tell me that we will be the ones to do it. That's impossible. Lux blinked once then twice before Randolph's words sank into him. He had never built a guild headquarters before and had no idea how to build one from scratch. In the case of other guilds, they've usually hired one of those merchant guilds to build their guild headquarters for them, Keelan said as he shared his knowledge. Have you already asked the mayor of Pygmalion to recommend some merchant guilds to you? Lux shook his head before opening his soul book. According to the new information that was added to his Elysium compendium, the guild master of a mythical guild can simply choose a location and pay the necessary gold for the guild headquarters to be built. Let me try something first, Lux said as he clicked the build guild headquarters option in his soul book. A moment later, several rows of text appeared in front of him, which Keelan and Randolph also saw, making them come closer to take a better look. Less than. You are now one step away from building your guild headquarters. Greater than. Less than, please. Select one of the merchant guilds listed here to commission the construction of your guild headquarters. Take note that they don't accept credits. All transactions must be paid in full before the construction starts. Greater than. Leading merchant guilds of Elysium. Do-it-yourself merchant guild, Amasun merchant guild, Ebai merchant guild, Zawarudo merchant guild, Zappos merchant guild, One Piece merchant guild, My Hero merchant guild, Full Metal merchant guild, Faith Stay merchant guild, Gunslinger merchant guild, League of Legends merchant guild, Kanpai collection merchant guild, Genshin Impact merchant guild. Nearly 50 merchant guilds appeared on the list, making Lux, Randolph, and Keelan ponder which merchant guild to pick from the choices listed in front of them. Regardless of which one they chose, they would need to pay 10 million gold coins for the building of their guild headquarters. However, since they haven't heard any of the names listed on the list, they were not sure which ones were the best in the industry. It's all up to you. Lux, Keelan said. I haven't heard of these names before. Perhaps they are merchant guilds outside of the kingdom of Gwillivan. Randolph also nodded his head. Someone like him, who hadn't even seen the entirety of the Dwarven kingdom, couldn't compare to Keelan, whose connections far surpassed him. After several minutes of pondering, Lux chose one of the merchant guilds that was on the list. You have chosen Genshin Impact Merchant Guild. Less than. Are you sure about your choice? Greater than. Less than. Yes. No. Greater than. Lux chose yes, and the name of the merchant guild he chose glowed faintly before disappearing in front of him. A moment later, a loud roar reverberated in the sky. The wind picked up, and black clouds appeared in the skies above the outer reaches. Suddenly, a giant blue dragon with 4 wings protruding from its back appeared in the distance, flying towards the mountain where Lux, Randolph, and Keelan were currently standing. The giant blue dragon circled the mountain twice before landing several meters away from the half-elf and the 2 dwarves. The sound of a lyre playing spread in the surroundings as a young man wearing a green robe and green feathered cap stood on the head of the dragon and gazed down on Lux with a smile. Give me a moment to compose myself, the young man said with a smile as the green cape on his back fluttered in the breeze. My name is Bentley. Are all of you ready to hear my performance? Lux, Randolph, and Keelan glanced at each other in dismay. They were looking for someone to build their guild headquarters, and not a performer who would play an instrument for them. However, Bentley, who was still standing on top of the giant blue dragon, merely chuckled and happily strummed the strings of his lyre, creating a beautiful melody that chased away the dark clouds in the sky. Allow me to formally introduce myself again. Bentley bowed respectfully. My name is Bentley, and I am the Vice Guild Master of Genshin Impact Merchant Guild. Pleased to meet your acquaintance. Nice to meet you too, Lux replied as he looked at the Vice Guild Master, who looked like a tone-deaf bard. wandering the land looking for the best alcoholic drinks available. Bentley smiled before nodding his head. Since we have made our introductions, let's get down to business. You want your guild headquarters built on top of this mountain, right? Yes. Lux nodded. I'd like it to be built over there. Lux pointed at the ideal spot, where he wanted to have his guild headquarters built. Bentley looked at the location and rubbed his chin. You will have to pay additional fees for the creation of a clearing on that mountain peak, Bentley stated. As you may already know, we can't possibly just build your headquarters on that spot without a proper foundation, so we need to do some demolition. How much will it cost? You will need to add 500,000 gold coins to the original price, so the total will be 10,500,000 gold coins. That's fine. If it was before, Lux would try to bargain with Bentley to lower the price of the demolition services, but since he was now rich, he didn't bother to bargain. But I have a condition. Keelan, who was standing beside Lux, started. During the demolition, any precious metals, ores, or gemstones that are unearthed will belong to us. Bentley chuckled after hearing Keelan's condition. I have no problem with that. Well then, you will be paying us upfront, yes? Of course, Lux said as he tossed Bentley a storage ring containing 10,500,000 gold coins. He had already prepared 10 million gold coins in the ring in advance, but since they needed to pay more, he added the remaining balance before giving it to Bentley. After seeing that the payment was paid in full, Bentley snapped his fingers and a portal, similar to a wormhole, appeared behind his back. Glee, Kenneth, and the rest of you guys, come here, Bentley said. Time for some boom boom Bakugan remodeling. A little girl with pink hair, wearing Little Red Riding Hood clothes, popped out of the wormhole, followed by a silver-haired teenager with crimson eyes. Several other figures appeared before them, wearing fashionable clothes, and, with a glance, the half-elf could tell that they were strong. Hello, I am Glee, the little girl with the Red Riding Hood said. I'm really good at fixing things. Oh, are you an elf? Lux asked. You look like a child. Isn't this child labor? Ha, what do you mean child labor? Glee tilted her head innocently. What even is child labor? Does that mean I can't help? Bentley chuckled as he patted Glee's head. Don't worry, although she looks young, she's actually a knight. Knights are allowed to work, so it's not child labor. Well, okay, I look forward to a job well done. Glee, and you can count on me. So, where is the place that needs to be demolished? I like demolishing things. Bentley then pointed at the mountain in front of them, making the little elf jump happily. Wow, so big. This is going to be fun, Glee said as she ran towards the location that Bentley pointed at. Kenneth, look after her, okay? Bentley said. Make sure to not let her get carried away. The silver-haired teenager gave a thumbs up before raising his fist high up in the air. Kenneth's adventure team, assemble. Several of the people that accompanied Kenneth and Glee posed beside Kenneth, putting the Power Rangers to shame. This scene also made Lux wonder if he had chosen the right people to do the job. Relax, we might be an easygoing guild, but we will get the job done, Bentley assured Lux, who seemed to be having doubts about their abilities. Before the half-elf could even reply, a powerful explosion sounded in the distance, making everyone in the vicinity look in the direction where Glee had run off to. Boom boom Bakugan. The Little Red Riding Hood threw some red bombs on the mountain peak, creating powerful explosions that shocked not only Lux, but Randolph and Keelan as well. That little girl is a ranker. Randolph's mouth hung open in disbelief. Just how? Originally, they couldn't figure out how Glee would be able to demolish an entire mountain peak on her own. However, after seeing how powerful her bombs were, Lux, as well as the two dwarfs' impression of the little girl, took a 90-degree turn. Boom boom. Aiko happily jumped up and down on Lux's head as she watched the powerful explosions in front of her. Ever since she planted the bone bombs inside the Twilight ship, the little slime developed a fondness for making things explode. The entire peak was covered with dense smoke, as consecutive explosions were heard in the background. Lux had already informed his guild about what was happening in the guild chat, preventing them from thinking that they were under enemy attack. Half an hour later, the explosion stopped, and the smoke that lingered on the mountaintop was dispersed by the wind. Looks like Glee's done with her demolition work, Bentley commented. Let's go and see the fruits of her labor. With Bentley leading the way, Lux and the others followed behind him. When they arrived at their destination, they saw a very satisfied Glee, whose face was covered in soot but with a very sweet smile on her face. Guild Master, mission complete. Glee saluted Bentley, who saluted her back. Good job, Glee, Bentley said as he took a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the soot off the little elf's face. Lux looked at his surroundings and nodded his head in satisfaction. The entire mountain peak was destroyed properly, and they only needed to level the ground to make it even. Everyone stand back, Kenneth shouted as he jumped high in the air and pulled back his arm. Teamwork is dreamwork. The silver-haired teenager punched the ground, creating a shockwave that was imbued with the power of flames. The rough surface of the mountain peak became somewhat even, as if it was an asphalt road paved by a road roller. By the Earth Goddess, another ranker, Keelan gasped. Is this really a merchant guild that specializes in construction projects? Bentley, who heard Keelan's comment, patted his chest with confidence before boasting about his guild's specialty. All of my guild members are experts in the field of construction, Bentley commented. They even have licenses to prove it. That is not what I'm trying to say. Keelan chuckled, but decided to not voice what was really inside his head. All of you are rankers and you guys are doing construction work. All of you must be very bored. Well then, now is the fun part, Bentley said as he handed Lux several scrolls for the design of their guild headquarters. What design do you want your guild headquarters to be modeled after? Lux accepted the scrolls and checked them one by one. Randolph and Keelan did the same and voiced their opinion on the matter. Several minutes later, Lux gave Bentley the design that he chose for their guild headquarters. After seeing the design that Lux chose, a smile appeared on Bentley's face, making him give a sidelong glance at the half-elf. You're quite ambitious, huh? Bentley commented. Very well, but this design will cost more than the others. Originally, your budget is 10 million gold coins, but if you choose this design, it will be doubled. I don't mind, but do you accept other currencies aside from gold coins? Of course. There are times when our clients don't have enough cash on hand, so they settle the rest using their valuables like gemstones, etc. Lux smiled as he took out a draconium ore from his storage ring and handed it to Bentley, making the eyes of the tone-deaf bard widen. Well, I didn't expect you to trade something like this. Bentley took a closer look at the draconium ore in order to confirm if it was authentic. Draconium ore, and it is of high quality. You are one big customer, my friend. Will that be enough? Lux asked. No, but if you give me 4 more of these, it will be enough. Okay, we have a deal. Lux didn't bat an eye as he took out 4 more draconium ores, all of the same size as the first one he gave the other party, and handed them to him. Parting with 5 pieces of draconium ore didn't hurt him one bit because he still had over 100,000 of them in his storage. As long as the design he chose was built properly, he was sure that it would create a great commotion, making those who lived in the outer reaches change their opinion of his guild. The construction of Lux's guild headquarters would be completed in 10 days, so Randolph and Keelan decided to return to the kingdom of Gwillivan for the time being. Sai, who was busy hunting treasures with Fei Fei, was busy touring the floating island, while the kobolds were starting to build a temporary nest inside the crater of the mountain range. Sethis, who only returned to the floating island 3 days later, was surprised to see that the construction of Lux's guild headquarters had already started. Although he had a great dislike for the kobolds, he had no choice but to endure his irritation as he observed the construction of Lux's guild. Several dragonborns, as well as dragons, who were also curious about what was happening on the third floating island, also visited from time to time. The days passed slowly, and Lux's guild headquarters was starting to take shape. Thousands of guild members of Genshin Impact had come using Bentley's wormhole on the first day, and worked hand in hand to speed up the construction work. Even the blue dragon could be seen carrying big slabs of white marble, and placing them in the right places, doing the heavy lifting by itself. While all of this was happening, Bentley just drank cider with Lux, as he told the half-elf the tale of his adventures across the many distant places in Elysium. Our guild headquarters can be found at least 8,000 miles away from Karshvar Draconis, Bentley explained as he lightly shook the bottle of cider in his hand. Fortunately, I had visited Pygmalion City once before, and saved its coordinates using my ability. As a merchant guild, we travel to different places, so it is always good to have many waypoints in the various cities that will allow us to travel faster. I see. Lux drank a cup of tea as he watched Aiko and Glee play tag in the distance. Since Glee's specialty is destroying things, she wasn't allowed near the construction site in order to prevent anything from being destroyed. But, seriously, I never thought that the one and only mythical guild in the world would hire us to make their guild headquarters, Bentley commented. You grant us a great honor. Too bad, I can't add your guild's name to our portfolio. Lux, who wasn't paying too much attention to what Bentley was saying, almost choked on his tea because he never told Bentley the name of his guild. While the half-elf was having a coughing fit, Bentley just smiled as he gazed at the construction work in the distance. Why are you so surprised? Bentley asked in a teasing manner. We are a merchant guild. Naturally, when I accept a commission to build a guild headquarters, I am able to see what the name of the guild is. I guess you should be thankful that you chose us to build your guild headquarters. I am someone who knows how to keep a secret. Lux looked at the young man with gratitude. He didn't plan on divulging the name of his guild for the time being to anyone, so having Bentley keep it a secret for him was a good thing. After your guild headquarters is built, you will be building some other guild facilities, right? Bentley shifted his gaze to the half-elf with a businessman look on his face. Make sure to call us again when you have the funds to pay for the construction work. Of course, We will accept draconium ores as well. Good. I did think of hiring you guys again to build other guild facilities when you finished our guild headquarters, Lux stated. Bentley then asked what other guild facilities Lux wanted to be built, and the half-elf voiced his thoughts. A while later, the bard gave the half-elf a few more scrolls so that he could choose the design of the guild facilities that he wanted to be built. Now that he had the draconium ores to fund his construction projects, the half-elf decided to build 4 things first: the alchemy shop, the smithy, the bestiary, and lastly, the teleportation gate. Bentley, you have a dragon with you, Lux said as he looked at the design of the bestiary. Do you think it is a good idea to have dragons as a mount for my guild members? No, Bentley replied firmly. 1, 2, or even a dozen dragons will be fine, but having hundreds of them will not only give you a headache, but it might also make Karshvar Draconis your enemy. The bard then drained the bottle of cider in his hand before giving out a loud burp. In the north of Elysium, there is an empire covered in snow all year round, Bentley explained. They have captured several ice dragons and forced them to slavery. The moment the eggs were laid, they would be moved to a different facility, where they would be trained to become mounts of their dragon rider cavalry. Their emperor ruled his lands with an iron fist, and his dragon riders were his ultimate trump card against the other nations that surrounded his borders. His circumstances are different from yours, since your headquarters is located in the lands of dragons. Making dragons your mounts will make you an eyesore to the dragonborns, as well as the Dragon King. If you want to live long, don't ever plan on taming dragons to be mounts for your guild members. Lux sighed in his heart because his plan to create a dragon cavalry was not possible. Then, do you have other suggestions? Lux asked. I'd like to have mounts that are able to fly and can fight when needed. Well, you can get wyverns, griffins, rocks, coquetry, pegasi, kylans, etc., or you can build flying mounts like gargoyles, Bentley replied. If you're not too picky, giant insects will also do, like giant wasps and butterflies. There are so many options to choose from, but don't tame dragons in the kingdom of dragons. That is just asking for a beating, so make sure to not make that mistake. A grunt reached Lux's ears, which he believed came from Kiaza, whose spirit resided inside the dragon token in his possession. Clearly, the crystal dragon was voicing his opinion that Bentley was right. Your guild is still in its infancy stage, and you don't have any rankers in your guild, Bentley continued his explanation. It will be best if you do your best to lie low for a while and focus on strengthening yourselves. Also, I don't recommend training or gaining experience in the territories around Karshvar Draconis and the lands under these floating islands. There are many roaming daimos, Argonaut, and dreadnought monsters in these lands, and apostles like you will easily become their snack. You can explore this region once you become a ranker. Before that, you should choose the places where you do your exploration with care. Bentley shared his knowledge with the half-elf, allowing Lux to learn a lot of things about the world of rankers, which he was very grateful for. After 10 days, his guild headquarters was finally built, allowing his guild members to finally step foot in the outer reaches and see the place that would become their base of operations. Wow, a castle. Heidi clapped her hands as she looked at the castle that was perched on top of the mountain. Lux, my boy, I thought you were only planning to build a guild headquarters, Sedwin commented. Are you planning to build a kingdom instead? A kingdom? That's too much work, Lux replied with a smile. I just want our guild headquarters to look good, and a castle has enough space to house our other guild facilities, making it the perfect option. You have outdone yourself again, lad. Tharam nodded his head in satisfaction. With this, we can say that we have finally made our mark on the world. We are no longer homeless vagabonds. Sethis, who was listening to their conversation from the side, snorted. By the way, Lux, what is the name of this guild of yours? Sethis asked. I've been with you for nearly 2 weeks, and I still don't know the name of your guild. The half-elf smiled as he gave his guild members a knowing glance before shifting his gaze to the black-scaled dragonborn, whom the Dragon King had assigned to supervise him. Remember this, Sethis, and remember it well, Lux said with a devilish smile on his face. The name of our guild is Arsgosha. Arsgosha, also known as the 72 Pillars of Hell, comprised of 72 high-ranking demons, who commanded legions of lesser demons that would obey their every order without fail. This was the pseudo-guild name that Lux had decided to use to hide his mythical guild's true name, Heaven's Gate. In order to make it official, Keelan sneakily registered this guild in the Adventurers Guild, using Lux's dragon rider, Bedivere, as its guild master. Since Bedivere was under Lux's command, it wasn't an issue to make him the proxy guild master of Arsgosha. The half-elf even went as far as to create guild badges of his pseudo-guild, as a disguise to fool the eyes of the public. 7 days later, the other guild facilities were also built. Since the teleportation gate required fine-tuning, It took the Genshin Impact Merchant Guild more time to run a few tests to ensure that the transfer of the gate was working properly. After a round of discussion, Lux decided to build one more teleportation gate at the very center of the crater. Although he didn't plan to do so in the beginning, the thought of building a town inside the crater started to sprout inside his head, making him think of future possibilities. The teleportation gate at their castle would be exclusive to the guild members, while the teleportation gate in the crater would be for their future guests. This has been a very profitable business. Bentley shook hands with Lux with a smile. If you want things to be built again in the future, just contact us. We will be there as soon as we can. Thank you. I will call for you guys when we need to build more guild facilities, Lux replied. Not far from the two of them, Glee and Eiko were having a tearful parting. Woo woo, Eiko, I will miss you, Glee said as she tearfully held the baby slime, whose face was rubbing on her cheeks. We had a lot of fun, making things explode while we were together. Woo woo. The baby slime also cried because the Red Riding Hood elf had become a very good friend to her. Since Glee wasn't allowed anywhere near the construction projects, she and Eiko would go outside the mountain range to play, casually throwing bombs at random things together. At some point, Lux even felt worried that Glee might become a bad influence to his baby slime. He was afraid that if the baby slime stayed with the little elf for a long period of time, Eiko might become an arsonist in the future. You guys are amazing, Kenneth said as he shook hands with Cadmus and the kobolds. Let's go on an adventure together sometime. Sure, Cadmus replied with a smile. When I become a Daimos ranked monster, let's go on an adventure together. After spending some time with the members of the Genshin Impact Merchant Guild, the members of Lux Guild learned a lot of things from the experiences they shared. If you have time, feel free to visit our city of Mondstadt, Bentley said before giving Lux a graceful bow. I'll treat you all to some good food and drinks. Bye for now, my dear friends. Goodbye, everyone. Nice working with you guys. We're off to our new adventure. Goodbye, Eiko. I'll come visit sometime. We can throw bombs at the city of Pygmalion, if you like. Eiko, who was perched on top of Lux's head, waved with teary eyes at Glee, who was the last to enter the portal. If not for the fact that Lux and Bentley managed to catch the two troublemakers in time, the pair would have definitely started throwing bombs at the city of Pygmalion while riding Glee's small flying ship. Things will become a bit quiet now that they are gone, Keen commented as he gazed at the teleportation gate, with his arms crossed over his chest. Lux nodded. Yes, but I seem to be forgetting something. The half-elf frowned because he really felt like forgetting something. Are you talking about Sai? Keen asked. I haven't seen that boar since the day our guild headquarters started to get built. That's right. Lux lightly thumped his fist over his palm because he had completely forgotten about the shameless boar that went treasure hunting. However, as if waiting for that cue, a loud laughter spread across the entire mountain as Sai made its appearance. I have returned, Sai declared. Da why? Fei Fei also made her presence known from on top of its master that had spent many days treasure hunting. Lux and Keen looked at the two with amused expressions because the two seemed to be in a very good mood. So, did you manage to get a lot of treasures? Lux asked. For him, as long as the treasures that belonged to the mountain range weren't taken, he was fine with it, even if Sai robbed the entire floating island of its riches. Anyway, it was outside his territory. Well, we didn't get a lot of treasures, but we had fun. Isn't that right, Fei Fei? Yes, Fei Fei replied. The boar then approached Lux before whispering something in his ear. We found a large dead dragon inside a cave located in a valley west of here, Sai whispered. You're a necromancer, right? Can you revive it? Lux's interest was piqued because he never thought that he would actually find a dead dragon lying somewhere on the floating island. Sethis had once told him that there was an island located on the eastern side of Karshvar Draconis, which they call the Dragon's Graveyard. This was the place where dragons went when they felt that their time of death was near. The majority of dragons that had gone to the Dragon's Graveyard were young and elder dragons. As for ancient dragons and above, Sethis told him that those powerful dragons would travel the world to find an uninhabited region to die. Resurrection magic didn't work on dragons, but animate undead did. Because of this, they did their best to ensure that their bodies would not be easily found by people, especially necromancers, who could use their corpse to summon an undead dragon that could bring harm to the living. Naturally, they could also choose to stay in Karshvar Draconis, where a special island was dedicated just for them. This island was heavily protected, not only by dragonborns, but also elder dragons, to ensure that the ancient ones would get their eternal rest, without worrying about being used as weapons of destruction. However, most ancient dragons lived solitary lives. They were truly powerful individuals and could move unhindered across the land. Bring me there, Lux said firmly. Sai nodded its head and led the way. After nearly 4 hours of traveling, they finally arrived at their destination. Just like Sai had said, the cave was located in a valley, and its entrance was well hidden. Actually, it was almost impossible to spot unless one looked at it from a certain angle. Whoever made the cave had made it so that nobody would be able to find it unless it was discovered by accident. Lux and Sai had the ability to see even if it was dark, while both Eiko and Fei Fei could generally sense their surroundings without any problems. However, since Keen was with them, Lux took out a glowing crystal that people used when they explored dark caves or dungeons that did not have any kind of lighting. In the distance, several glowing eyes stared at them, but Sai had said that they were only fruit bats and weren't aggressive monsters. However, these fruit bats were nearly 4 feet tall, and their wingspan reached up to 3 meters in length. As they went deeper inside the cave, the dragon token that was hidden inside Lux's storage ring came out and hovered beside Lux. Kiaza felt something very familiar, so he decided to take a look as well. Soon, they stepped into a very large and spacious cavern that was the size of a football stadium. At the center of it was a giant figure, who seemed to only be sleeping. Unbelievable, Keen muttered as he looked at the dragon, which he estimated to be at least 20 meters in length. Is this an elder dragon? Lux looked at the dead dragon, which seemed to have been frozen in time. Although he was very certain that the dragon was dead due to his necromantic powers, its corpse was so well preserved that it looked like it was only sleeping, waiting for someone to wake it up from its long slumber.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.